Does this what you feel like when you've got a new project and you don't know what to do and you get stuck? How is this going to benefit you? I'm going to help walk you through step-by-step tutorial, getting this all straightened out in an organized way, making for a better sewing experience. I'll see you at the sewing table. Oh my God, that is how I used to feel all the time when I made bags at first until I figured this out. So I hope you guys are going to have fun with this. This is going to be the playoff from the Secret Sewing Edition 2026, which was the 7th edition. And we're going to be making the Loretta. So before I start, I just want to show you some of the bags that I've already done and what we'll be making today. And I'm going to try to make this in chronological order following along in the PDF. There'll be a couple of changes, but we're going to have a blast making this. This is the one that I made during the Secret Sew and the follow along with the nice little faux ostrich, and the inside has so much room on the inside. I put this cute little pull on the end. This is a very nice bag. It's a cross between a satchel and a tote bag, and it is so, so beautiful. But the one we'll be making today will be this one here. This really is going to be for a baby bag, for a diaper bag, for a newborn baby that's come along. And the fabric here is from fabricdresser.com. It was a pre-order. So when you follow along today, this is what we will be making. We have the zip pocket in the back. We have the removable adjustable strap, which I'll be going through on how to make that. We have a beautiful recessed zipper. It's very practical. And on the inside, you're going to have a double slip pocket for lots of space. And we have another zip pocket on the inside. And this is just so beautiful. The geometric design on this, it is really beautiful and practical. And I love the bright colors. So I am looking forward to teaching you guys how to do this and sew along with me. It's all visual learning. If there's another video you guys might be interested in from Shamballa, leave it in the comments below and then I can start working on that for you guys. Let's get started. So you should have already had your pattern downloaded and printed out or just downloaded and following along. So this is the Loretta. And here's some images in the beginning of the book and a note from Sammy, the designer. You have your table of contents. It tells you your finished and final measurements. And each one of these patterns, you're going to have your front, back, lining, stabilizers, and others in different colors. And then these are the materials that you'll be needing, which is your fabric, so you need to read along with that. And then each one of these will have cutting instructions and what you need to cut out, and you can just go ahead and check it off as you get it finished. And then we'll be starting here with making the front panel, and we'll be working on both the front panel and the back panel at the same time. And the reason being is these two bottom pieces need to be exactly the same before you start putting everything together, because in the event that they're not, it could cause your bag to be kiltered. So let's not waste any time and let's get started. So before we get started, I just want to go through a couple of things, okay? So on page 14 from your PDF, they're going to talk in here about your strap loop. You're going to go ahead and take the cutout dimension that was in the pattern, which is 1 inch by 9 3/4. Then you're going to go ahead and mark the center line and fold them in. So you can see I have a fold line here. I would suggest that you do glue this one or use some sort of adhesive, because this does come unraveled when it gets hooked over, because these are going to be the strap loop keepers. And now that this is my 5th bag making this, I have realized that it's just a lot better that you put glue on this one instead of using hyper stick or double stick tape, okay? So we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew that. But what I'm trying to teach you guys here is when you're doing a project like this, yes, you have a PDF and a pattern to follow along with. But it's more common sense and more productive and a more productive sew if you get a bunch of things prepped together and then go sew it at the sewing machine. Because if you guys know, I've been posting jokes lately about, oh, I enjoyed my 8-hour day making a 30-minute project, or my 2-day project turned into 4 weeks, which was 8 months later, that I totally enjoyed. You guys know what I'm talking about. So just to make a more productive sewing, I'm trying to teach you guys a better way of doing it. You can follow along in the PDF the way you want, and I'm just going to give you the tools how to sew it. But for this particular video, we're going to go through and we're going to do the strap handles. And I have one here to show you how to do it. We'll be doing the decorative strap. on both of those, so you need to fold those in, is to go ahead on page 14, get that done, mark the center and fold it in. And then we're going to move on to the handles and decorative strap. So you need to cut that to size, which is in the pattern, and mark your center line, and we're going to tape that down. And then I'm going to show you guys how to cut off the 5/8 of an inch on one side and tape them together. And we'll be doing the same thing on the handles. I already have one completely finished with the 5/8 of an inch already cut up on the ends and marked. So we're going to go ahead and tape all these off, find our center line, tape them together, and get them ready to be prepped together. And I'll be right back, and then we'll go ahead and finish doing that. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine with all of these pieces at once, including your adjustable strap, and sew it at once. So you're looking at a 20-minute sewing session instead of getting up, prepping it, getting up, prepping it, getting up, and prepping it. So it's just better you get a bunch of stuff grouped together and sew it at once. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so you have your decorative strap, and we're going to go ahead and remove the tape. And we'll be folding this to the center all the way on both sides. And this will be the same process you'll be doing with the handles as well. Okay, remove the tape from the other side. Now on the back side of the front from your decorative strap, I want you to mark 5/8 of an inch. That's what's instructed in the pattern. So go ahead and mark 5/8 of an inch, something that's removable. I'll just use this because that works fine for me. You could use an erasable pen, air erasable pen, whatever works for you. And you want to mark the 5/8 of an inch there. Okay. Then you're going to want to take some tape, and we're going to go ahead and tape this between those marks. Okay, so that one's done. So this is your front side taped, marked at 5/8 of an inch on each side. Okay. Now, the next step, this is your back side, which is exactly the same. What I'm going to have you do before you cut into it is I like to go ahead and give it extra adhesive on there so it doesn't come apart. You don't have to. All right, and I'm going to roll that tape into place just to make sure it sticks. And then we'll be cutting off 5/8 of an inch from each side on the back of it. So what you'll be doing is taking your ruler and cutting it. And then you're going to come back on this side and do the same thing. You're going to cut off the 5/8 of an inch. And that's with 5/8 of an inch cut off on both sides. Before I remove my tape, I like to do a dry run. And there we go. Fits really nice. Okay? So before I remove my tape one more time, I like to brayer it down. Okay? Remove your tape from here. And then what I do is just only remove half my tape, so if I get too carried away or if I have to replace something, I can. So just move that out of the way. Then you're going to go ahead and put it on here and line these up at the 5/8 of an inch mark line, which you can see right here. It's 5/8 of an inch. Okay, 5/8 of an inch. There we go. And you want to line these up so that they're straight because we're going to be going in sewing a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on there. And just try to do your very best to keep these straight, okay? Here we go. So when this is finished, it should be 5/8 of an inch here, gone, and 5/8 of an inch here, gone. And this is what it will look like, okay? We're gonna come along and sew an 1/8 of an inch top stitch all the way around this at the sewing machine. So I'm gonna put that aside for the other stuff we have to sew. So now we're gonna repeat the exact same thing on this. So we'll end up being for our straps, okay? So walk you through that real quick. I will be speeding this along a little bit because it's the exact same thing being repeated, but I wanted to make sure that I covered it in the video. So it's the exact same process. Now I've already cut off the 5/8 of an inch off of each one of these. I did that offline. So you can go ahead, once you finish this piece, you take your second piece, cut off your 5/8 of an inch from each side, and then you're going to line it up and put it in the center. Again, so it looks like this. Okay? So we're going to do that now. In the instructions, it says line up your centers. So let's just do that for fun. Line up the centers. Make sure it's something that can be erased because it will be showing on the public side. Okay, so here's your center here and here's your center here. So this is by the instructions. And then just walk it down so it's straight. If you don't like the way it's sitting, just pull it off. Sometimes just pull it back just a little bit. You want to make sure these are lined up. This is your straps. In the front of the bag, the handles, the top handles. Okay. Just take a look at it, make sure everything looks good, and that's what it's going to look like from this side. Okay? Now, we're going to take these handles before we go sew anything. And we have the A and B and the A and B. We need to mark that, punch it, and angle that out before you sew. Rogue again, which right now I'm going to show you where we're at so we're following along. We don't need that tape dispenser anymore. So now we're here on page 15. So the next step is we're going to be doing number 16 on page 16. So we're going to be taking these little ends and you're going to mark them. You're going to cut them off, punch a hole through those, and I'm going to walk you through how to do that, okay? Because this is something important I feel is necessary before we do the top stitching on there, okay? I'll be right back. Okay, so these are the templates that need to go on the ends of the handles. You have A and B. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice, okay? This is going to be 1.5 inches where that goes, all right? So you can go ahead and just mark that 1.5 inches. And then this is 1 inch, so it's a 1/2 inch from each side. And I'm just doing this to save a little bit of time for you guys because you don't always necessarily punch those properly, and it's important that is straight on the bag because I don't punch properly all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and just mark this now. All right. So this is 1.5 centered on the 1 inch, which is a 1/2 inch from each side. I'm going to go ahead and punch this out. So I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that's centered. Okay, make sure you go through both sides, which it is, okay? So my rivet fits through there. Now you're going to take your template, and you can see now that it's going to be lined up. See? I don't know if you can see through that. You can see straight through the hole. Okay, now, because we have to go sew this, and this is letter A with an erasable pen, go ahead on the front side, mark A. Because if you don't, trust me, you'll mess that up, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and line up these corners here and here and here. In the pattern on page 16, she shows you just cut it out with the scissors. I find it's more efficient for me to just draw the line and cut it off. You can do what works for you, okay? And I want to cut this off before I sew it to make sure that this is going to stay where it belongs, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And also remember, you're going through several layers. So just make sure you take your time cutting that, all right? So that's cut off, I can throw it away. That is already marked A, okay? Now I'm going to come over here to B and do the exact same thing, okay? I'm going to do the other one offline, and you guys can do that offline as well. Just have it ready to go when we get ready to go sew and prep, okay? And just so you can see, I'm going to go ahead and do this now. The way that she says in the instructions. So you're going to clip that on and mark the center, all right? Which is a 1.5 inch. And go ahead and cut this, and you can cut it with the scissors if you like. I still like to mark all my stuff ahead of time. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take this side. I'm going to mark this with B. So I know that it's B. Okay. I'm going to check this before I punch it, okay? Because I know that it's 1.5 inches, and I'm not accurate always putting templates on things. It has nothing to do with the pattern. It has to do with me. So I'm going to come up 1.5 inches from the bottom. And I'm just going to go ahead and mark it again with a pen. And then I'm going to go ahead and go on each side at a 1/2 inch. Making sure it's centered. And then I'm going to check it on the other side too. And there's my 1/2 inch there. My markings are not always correct. So I'm going to go ahead and find the center there and punch it. Or you can use a punch if you want to. I like using these, it's just a lot more effective. Okay, and we already have our line marked here, so we can go ahead and trim that off. Now this is gonna go in the pile of things to sew. We'll be sewing a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. Just make sure that those markings are on there, because when we go to put this on the bag, it's gonna look like this, okay? And as she shows in the picture, if you put it like this, it's exactly what's shown in the picture, A, B, okay? And just make sure that whatever you mark that with, it's an erasable pen, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the side for sewing. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed and feel like we're going all over the place, but I'm telling you, prep is the key to success. It makes it so you don't get burned out on these bags, because it's always gonna be the same. The front, the back, the gusset, piping optional, the recessed zipper, the interior, the strap. So I just like to try to keep this moving along so it flows better, because honestly, I don't like going back and forth to my machine, nor do I like sitting in front of it. I like working my prep area. So just to recap real quick, you should have your piping ready to go so you can sew the holding seam allowance at 1/8 of an inch. You could go ahead and make your adjustable strap. I'm not going to do that on video because it's really long and boring. It's just the same thing we've already done with the handles. We've got our strap loops, we've got our decorative strap, and we have our 2 handles that we've already accomplished with them cut out and ready to be sewn, okay? Next, we're going to go ahead and cover the prep for the back panel. I'm kind of going out of sequence a little bit, okay? Because the reason is we're just going to sit down, like I said, and sew this all at once, and I'm telling you, it makes for a more successful sew. So you're going to need your zipper, which is 12 inches, and your 2 end tabs. You're going to need your back panel, which already has your stabilizer on it. And by the way, everything I'm working on has been cut out on my Cricut with the OEM SVGs that were supplied in your material. You're going to go ahead and need your pocket for your back, your zipper pocket back, and have that prepped. I have everything already taped. I have everything stabilized. For my cotton fabrics and my washable fabrics or waterproof fabrics, I use Geeky Fuse, the firm cotton. And for the back stabilizers for my faux leather or my ostrich, if you see this cream color, that's going to be Decoville Light. If you see the heavier white colors, that's going to be the Way Wax stuff, okay? So continuing on, I like to stabilize my zipper ends because really, seriously, those can stretch out, and poor construction if you don't do that, okay? And then you're going to have your front. From the template, you have to mark these lines on here. If you're going to go from the back side and do it, you need to flip it over. If you're going to go from the front side and do it, make sure that you have a pen that can be erased. You're going to flip this over if you're using a template, or you can use the one that was supplied in the material taped together, okay, which I used everything from my Cricut. So I want you to take your top, I want you to stabilize it first and mark where your lines are going to be. I punch out ahead of time so that I have it ready to go. I hope that's not confusing for you guys, okay? But I go ahead and mark it and punch those lines first. Then I take my Decoville and put a little piece underneath where that rivet's going to be so it doesn't put extra stress on there. Then I put the whole Way Wax on top of it, tape it all off. Now let's go ahead and start prepping the back so we can go ahead and get that sewn, okay? We're going to take this. Okay, so you already have your stuff already marked. I just like prepping all this stuff so we can just get it over with and start working, okay? I'm going to go ahead and punch these out and have them ready to go. I already have them marked where they go, and I already have pre-punched holes in them. Okay? Make sure that you mark your lining where it starts and stops and go 3/4 of an inch down from there. So that's going to be ready for the back, all right? That part's done. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about the front. You'll be taking piece B and we'll be sewing it to piece A. So that will look like this when we sew it together, which I'm going to go ahead and prep it all before we go to the sewing machine. Then when that's done, we'll be butterflying that open, putting a top stitch on there, and we'll be sewing it to C, okay? We have all 3 of the pieces there for the cutout, and actually I didn't cut these out on the Cricut, I did it by hand. So remember, if you're cutting from the front, you need to keep it to the front, mark it off, and do it. If you're cutting it from the back, you need to flip it otherwise you're going to have the wrong way, okay? So we got all that ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and just show you real quick. I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick and get this prepped and ready to go so we can just go sit down and sew it. So you're going to line these up like this. It'll be a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So those will also be prepped and ready to go. And again, we're going to be sewing a 1/4 inch on this. When we're done, we'll butterfly it open, do top stitches, and then we'll be adding this to it. So I'm just going to clip this together so it doesn't get lost. So that is ready to go in the other room and sew. So I'm going to put it in the pile of the sew stuff. From your template, front side facing, you're going to mark this here. Take your pen, pre-punch out all your holes here. You're going to mark your piping. Okay, so those are all punched out. I don't know if you can see through them. When you're done with that, what I want you to do, just double check your centers and make sure that you can see through your holes, which I can. You want to make sure that they're all going to be the same because you don't want some wonky stuff going on, all right? And I'm going to mark my center right here in the center of the center. And the reason I'm telling you this, when we get ready to do this buckle, if you don't have this sitting on here right, sometimes it can mess it up and the bag won't sit right. So I'm just giving you extra tips for more successful sew. Okay, so this is now done. So I'm gonna go grab my zipper because another key to successful sewing, before you put a zipper into place, a lot of these nylon zippers are cheap. So make sure you give it a nice good starch. Don't use too much heat because you don't want to melt your zipper tape. But I went ahead and starched it, let it sit overnight so it's nice and crispy. So I'm gonna get that nice line when I'm folding it together and sewing it. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put these tabs on here so they're ready to be sewn. Make sure your zipper pull is on before you do this part, okay? I like to tape on both sides just so it doesn't impray or go rogue on me. All right, you're gonna line this up on here so it's straight, just like that, okay? Go ahead and clip it so it doesn't come off. And repeat the same thing on the other side. And again, I do have some Decorative right here. This is 3/4 inch. And I'm kind of trying to stay out of my seam allowances, but it will help you on the back so it doesn't do weird stuff where that zipper is. Okay, line that up, make sure it's straight. And now that's ready to go, okay? So we're gonna add this to the pile of we need to sew it now. This is your back bottom. I'm not doing nothing with that. I'm gonna leave it right here. So now we're ready to go ahead and go and get this prep work done and start sewing this. So I'm just going to recap on everything we're taking to the machine to sew. So we have the back zipper. We have the front A, B, and C, okay? We have our decorative strap for the front. We have the straps marked with A and B, which we're doing all an 1/8 inch seam allowance on there. We have our strap loopers, which is also going to be 1/8 inch. We have our piping. This has already been cut out and ready to go, and I've showed you guys in other videos how to do it. Then you have your adjustable strap, which I'm not going to show you how to put it together because it's the same as the handles and everything else, but we'll also be sewing that and getting it prepped ready to go. All right, so I'll meet you over at the sewing machine with all these items right here. This will take you less than 20 minutes to sew it all together. Then we're gonna come back and we're gonna prep the back with the zipper we just did. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and start lining these up to put the front and the back together. Okay, I'll see you at the sewing machine. Okay, so now we're at the sewing table and we're gonna go ahead and we have the strap loop, our handles, adjustable strap, our decorative strap, and then we have piece A, B, and C to sew together, and our zipper and our piping. So let's go ahead and get that started. It's 1/8 inch seam allowance. I have my stitch length set at 4.5. Okay, cut off your threads. And then we're going to move on to the decorative strap next. Now, when you're sewing this decorative strap, be careful on the back side that you don't get this all kinked up and stuff. Just have to kind of be a little bit more mindful of that. And this is, again, 1/8 inch. So you see you have this little spot right there. Just be careful it doesn't get stuck in your dog feed. I'm going to walk that one through because I really want to make sure that it's in there properly. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing there. We just need to be careful I'm just going to use a little screwdriver so I know I don't get it stuck on that dog bead. Go ahead and cut your threads. And there's your decorative strap. It's going to twist a little bit, so when you go back, you can just steam it a little with an iron and put a weight on there. It'll keep it down flat. So that one's finished. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my piping. That's going to be also 1/8 of an inch. Turn this up to 8 because I don't really need those stitches to be in there that way. So I'm just putting this on at 1/8 of an inch. You don't need a back stitch. It's just to keep the adhesive from opening up while I put it on the exterior panels, the front and the back. And there's no need to back stitch here because you're going to be popping that off anyways to adhere it to your front and back. And then repeat the same thing on the next one. Next, we're going to be moving on to the handles. It's so much faster this way. Now remember, you're going to have the same situation back here, so you want to make sure that you're not getting that stuck in the machine. Of an inch seam allowance. And 1/4 inch of this will end up being in the seam allowance, so you won't see it. So I like to start on the bottom and then work my way around. We're going to have the same situation here, so you need to make sure that you're keeping this little piece in when it goes across the dog beads, because otherwise it will push them backwards. Okay, just continue on with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So your pair of handles finished. You have all the piping done. Now we're going to go ahead and do the adjustable strap. And I will definitely just start this out and then cut it out and then come back at the end. It's really long doing adjustable straps and quite boring. There's your adjustable strap finished. Okay, next we're going to work on the zipper. It's a 12-inch zipper from the back bottom. And this will be sewn at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Be sure to back stitch in the beginning and the end. Okay, and you're going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to put a strip of tape on here so that I know it stays. Okay, I have this marked at 5/8 of an inch. I don't know if you can see this. When I do my folds, I always mark at 5/8 of an inch and then I fold to that line so I know that I'm staying consistent. That's up to you what you want to do, but at least you know that your lines are staying straight, okay? So then put that tape on there, cut off the extra, and go ahead and remove the tape. And then what I do is I will fold this to that 5/8 of an inch line because that guarantees that it's going to be straight. So I turn that around and it'll be straight. I can double check it with my ruler and it's straight, okay? So I'm going to show you that again. And put my tape on here. Right below my 5/8 of an inch seam allowance that I marked. It's not written in the pattern. I'm going to remove the tape, the back of the tape, and I'm going to fold that up to that 5/8 of an inch seam allowance right there and right here, and press it down my fingers real well, okay? And then that should be straight. All right, now we're going to sew a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on that. Go ahead and clip your threads. And then we're going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, and go ahead and snip your threads. That is finished. and ready to put on the back bottom. So that's what this looks like. Very professional. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and do the front bottom panel. So we're gonna go ahead and attach. We're attaching the B front to the A front. And this is 1/4 inch seam allowance. You should back stitch in the beginning and the end. And I do have this set up for 1/4 inch. And this is a construction stitch, so I'm just gonna take it down 1 notch. Okay, cut off your excess threads. And now we're gonna butterfly this open. I know you've watched my videos in the past, or you've been new to joining me on this. This is butterflying it open. You're gonna open it from the back side. You take your fingers and you're gonna hand press it. First with your fingers. And then if you want a nice firm press, I go ahead and do it with my roller. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tape them so that they stay down. You don't have to tape them. You can just butterfly it open while you're sewing on a sewing machine. But this way it reassures it that I'm not going to get it tangled up in there. So I just like to make sure that it's stuck where it belongs. Now if you wanted to, just like I did on that zipper, to assure that you are getting the correct line, you could go ahead and mark 1/2 inch. Because that's 1/4 inch. On my thicker fabrics, I go 5/8, but on the thinner fabrics, like this is just 1 layer, you go 1/2. So when you go to butterfly that open, it's probably too much information, but when you go to butterfly that open, you guarantee it's going to sit right where it belongs. No questions asked, okay? I'll take this sticker off of here. We don't need that any longer. I'm going to go ahead and put tape on that side too. Hope we did that already. I'm going to go ahead and mark this at 1/2 inch too. That way if I have something that's off, I can go back and look later and say, oh, what did I do wrong? Okay. Now you want to go ahead and remove your tape from both sides. Or you can do one at a time. It's up to you, whatever you would like to do. Then we're going to go back, because we already pressed it open, we're going to go back and butterfly it open with the tape. And see, that fits right within that seam allowance that you allotted for it. Nice and perfect. See? Okay, I like to flip this open. And from the right side, I like to give it one more press. There we go. And now we'll be sewing a 1/8 inch seam allowance on both sides. Okay, so this is 1/8 inch top stitch. Just gonna bring this across here a little just to tack it in place. So make sure it's 1/8 inch. There we go. And there we go. 1/8 inch top stitch. Then you can go ahead and just walk across here one more time. Secure it in place. So we know it's gonna go like that. You flip it over and then take it down here corner to corner as well. And then I just like to come along here in the centers a little bit, making sure it's all straight. And this once again will be 1/4 inch seam allowance. I like to come forward a little bit and then go back when I back stitch. And remember, don't stretch this out while you're sewing it. Just let the machine do the work. Because this is not structured stabilized fabrics unless you're using something like leather or cork or something. This faux vinyl is pretty much really soft. So when you go over this edge right here, just make sure, just double check it that it's butterflied open still, which it is. Otherwise you'll have problems when you go in there and top stitch it. So just take your time. Okay, cut off your threads. All right, so now I'm gonna flip this over and just double check it. It looks really good. I'm gonna remove that sticker. I don't need that anymore. All right, I'm gonna have you open it up and we're gonna go ahead and butterfly this once again. Just go ahead and take your time, pushing it along. If you get over here, it's a little bit tricky because you have that extra seam there. Just bring it along. Now here, to help you, you can go ahead and just push that open and kind of pinch it back so that it kind of lays a little bit better. All right, so we got that done. Now we're gonna go ahead and tape that off again. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and mark that half-inch line like I did before. That'll really help with the placement on that. So I'm gonna go ahead and push this open and walk this back to that line that I marked, which was a 1/2 inch. I'm doing this side first before we come back on that other side, okay? And just keep pushing it down all the way across. There we go. Now at this point, I'm going to take my roller and just go ahead and roll it one more time too. Okay, now you can go ahead and remove your tape from the other side and do this exact same thing. Now we're going to go ahead and go back and we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch seam allowance top stitch. And then this bottom piece will be finished. I'm going to start on the bottom here. It's 1/8 of an inch. Take your time, back stitch in the beginning and the end. You don't want that to tear out. And keep your finger pressed on top of this because sometimes it'll come unglued and you don't want that coming up because you want it to look nice. This is the front of your bag. Take your time right here where this hump is. Even though you're not sewing on it, it can still throw off your stitches. Okay, we're going to turn it. It looks really nice. I like it. It's a little bit crooked, but hey, there's no perfect sewing. All right, I'm going to line this back up again. So we do 1/8 of an inch on this side. Now be careful when you're going over this because you don't want to tear this hump right here. Somebody did that in one of our groups and I felt bad for her, but she fixed it with some edge coat. So just take your time. This is one of the most important top stitches. When you get closer to coming up here, just push this down with your fingers. Make sure it's staying flat. You may have to walk it across there. If you don't want to force it, you'll tear your fabric. Okay, I want to turn this one more time and just come across it forward just to make sure I'm securing those stitches right there. Don't want those coming apart. Okay, that's that. Go ahead and press this out flat so it doesn't look so wonky. You want that flat. And then you want to go ahead and flip it around on the back. Draw 3/8 of an inch around on the bottom and 1/4 inch on the top and go ahead and put your stabilizer on there that's allocated for it in the pattern, okay? And then I'll meet you guys back at the prep area and we can work with all these pieces to get everything done. All right, so now that we got done sewing all this, we got our strap finished, we got our 2 handles finished. You can go ahead and iron those out and put some weights on that'll keep it from curling. We got our decorative strap finished, which we'll go ahead and put the buckle on there in a minute after we do the back. We got the zipper finished, which we're gonna go ahead and work on now. And we have our strap loops finished and we have our piping done. So that's all your prep work and we should be able to go ahead and get started working here. I left this alone because I want to get this back finished first, but both the back and the front should be the same. If you went ahead and cut out the template or you have a cutout from it, you're gonna trim this up and not do it now, just wait. Because we're gonna do the back first. The back and the front need to match to make this bag work out properly so it's not leaning forward or leaning backwards. So we're gonna come back and address this when we get done finishing the back. So now what we're gonna do is go ahead, we're on page 23. We're gonna go ahead and we got the zipper done already, which was number 29. We're gonna go ahead and get the zipper put in place. We're gonna put the pocket in there and everything else can be left alone and then we're gonna go sew this. So to start out here, I already have tape on here and be sure that you do have your stabilizer on the back of this before you start doing any of this, okay? So you want your zipper to open to the left, okay? So I'm gonna leave it just like that. We're gonna go ahead and remove the tape. But before we do that, we need to mark the center. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make sure we remove the tape here. Make sure that this is also marked in the center. Okay, so remember your zipper is going to the left. You're going to go ahead and line up your centers. And don't pull on it or stretch it, but just lay it across there. Because we'll be sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance on the sewing machine. And this will be normal that this is over just a little bit, okay? Go ahead, you can either move your zipper out of the way, which I'm gonna do. Make sure this is down straight. I'm gonna clip it a couple places so it doesn't move. And again, be sure not to stretch it out. Make sure your center stays centered. And just walk it across. And again, you're gonna have a little bit left over there on your hanging. Press it down real well. Okay. All right, we're good to go there. Now, you're gonna have your back pocket in there. And I want, when the pocket opens, I wanna be able to see these 2 butterflies. So this is gonna be sitting like that in there. So this inside pocket is gonna go right on top of here like this. Your center is marked. Go ahead and remove your tape. You got your tape removed. Now you're going to flip this around and line up your centers. I'm going to go ahead and just remove that one clip for now. Line up your centers and just go ahead and walk this across. Don't stretch nothing out. That will not be good. I don't like the way it's sitting. There we go. Okay, and clip that in place. I'm going to go ahead and pull the zipper out of the way, a little bit back over to the right. And I'm going to finish walking this across. Make sure that these are lined up. Okay? If you don't like the way something looks, just pick it up and put it back on. Here we go. Clip everything back in place. And we're going to go in the sewing room and we're going to be sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we'll come back here and flip this other way around. And then we'll get ready to do the rest of it, okay? Okay, so this is going to be 1/4 inch seam allowance on the back bottom for the zipper. I did go ahead and mark it at 1/4 inch, but I'm going to go ahead and use my seam guide anyways. And be sure to back tack in the beginning and the end. Be sure to back stitch at the end. Okay, so we got that done. Now I want to go ahead and fold this out of the way. First, I'm going to finger press it with my fingers, okay? The same thing goes as before. I like to fold this down at 5/8 of an inch seam line. So it's all the same throughout my whole project. You don't have to, you can do it at 1/2 inch. I like to just give it that little bit extra that I need. Now, I'm going to go ahead and mark this at 5/8 of an inch, which I already have on here, but I can't see through my stabilizer. So I'm going to mark it again. Okay. And now I'm going to fold it back over on itself, which is basically my seam allowance that I'm going to be folding, okay? So I'm just going to pull on this just a little bit, making sure it's all straight. And you can see it's making a nice little fold right on that line. All the way across. There we go. I'm going to move the zipper out of the way a little bit more again. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I want it to be on the 5/8 of an inch line so that it's consistent throughout the whole project. Now, I'm going to fold this back out of the way after I move the zipper. Okay. This is going to be folded back over on itself. You can use your finger to press it down because it's going to be hit with a seam on this one. If your lining fabric in the back isn't staying down and it keeps flopping up, which mine is doing a little bit, and I'm going to give it a firm press one more time. There we go. Close up the zipper and do it again. I just want to make sure this is staying firm. Okay. Now we're going to go back over to the machine, which is right next to me, and we're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch. And take your time, and it's going to be 1/8 of an inch back stitching in the beginning and the end. Okay, now we're going to go back to the table, And we're going to start working on the top parts with the straps and putting them in place where they belong. And I'll meet you back at the table. Okay, so now we're back over here. And now you can double check to make sure everything is lined up properly the way it belongs. And it looks great. So you line up your corners here. Make sure your centers are centered. And everything is fitting together perfectly. So now at this time, you can go ahead and true up your pattern so that this is straight. Just go ahead and line this up where it belongs. And you can go ahead and true this up right here, or you can take a ruler and true it up so that you don't have a problem with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and true this up now, and I'm gonna go ahead and put my stabilizer on the back of this. And then when I come back, we're gonna go ahead and tape this down to this. And then we're gonna start working on the tops. I will be removing this mat because we have to do some pounding and putting the rivets in to make it all work out. All right, I'll be back in a second. Okay, so let's go through the next sections. We're gonna be working with the straps and the loopers, all right? I'm gonna put those aside just for a second. All right, so the main part that you wanna do next, now that we have all this done, be sure that you have your stabilizer on the back of this. You wanna flip this over and just make sure that these are the same size. If they're off by just a little bit, it's not going to affect the bag. But if you're off by like a 1/4 inch or something like that, then you have a problem. Then you're gonna have to square it up, otherwise your bag will be kiltered. I did check mine, everything looks really good. You wanna take your back of your zipper pocket, put some tape on there, and the next part we wanna do is go ahead and line up our centers and tape that on there. Be sure that this is centered, find your center. My center is right here, okay? You're gonna put this on upside down. Okay, it was like this. Now you're gonna flip it upside down and center it. You're gonna take a pen that can be erased or removed and mark these spots. That's for your straps. This is A and this is B. Okay? You mark there, 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 and there, okay? You're gonna take your strap. Now, I went ahead and put these back on so we know which one was which in case we turned them around. These are gonna go on upside down like this, okay? So you can go ahead and remove your A, turn it upside down, and go ahead and clip it in place here because we're gonna go ahead and tack them in place when we go and sew at the sewing machine. Do not twist your straps. Make sure they're staying in place where they belong. It was your B, and you're gonna put that in place right there. So when we go sew, we're gonna sew everything at once. It's a very, so I'm gonna put that aside because it's ready to go. We're gonna do the same thing over here. Line them back up where they're indicated. Okay, we're gonna be cutting a little bit off of this so you don't have to start right away up there. What we're gonna do on the sewing machine is we're gonna start right here and go all the way across to here. Just to tack this in place and to tack these in place, all right? So, just to recap, we're gonna go to the sewing machine and take the bottom front and the bottom back, and we're gonna go ahead and sew from here to here. And on the front, we're just gonna tack those in place, okay? Okay, so we're gonna be tacking this in place at 1/8 of an inch. Make sure it's on the lines where you marked it. Okay, go ahead and cut your threads. We're tacking this in place at 1/8 of an inch. We're going to start at the zipper tab, back stitch in the beginning and the end. Just make sure that these stay lined up. They might have shifted, just go back and reshift them. You're gonna go ahead and back tack those in the beginning and the end of each strap. Okay, and then just continue on. Go ahead and get your zipper pull out of the way. Okay, pull those off and cut your threads, and then we're going to go back to the work table and we're going to get these prepped with rivets. Okay, so we have that finished now. Go ahead and make sure your tape is secured. And remove your tape backing. Then take your top back and go ahead and remove the tape. Okay, making sure it stays in place. I'm going to go ahead and brayer it one time just to make sure it's extra sticky there. Make sure it stays in place. It's a lot of humps and bumps we'll be going over on that. So go ahead and clip that where the strap is so you know that's where that goes. Just go ahead and clip it there. And then you can just put normal clips because we're going to go ahead and do the front before we sew this back together. So you might want to go ahead and just clip it in place in a couple places so it doesn't come undone. Then you can put that aside, and when we get ready to sew on the front, we'll go ahead and sew the back at the same time. Okay, so now we're on page 17, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our buckle on here, and we're going to go ahead and mark that. And then we're going to do the buckle placement and mark that. And then I'm going to show you how to take this silly buckle that don't fit and make this buckle out of it, okay? So, I went ahead and got the center of this already found. You're gonna slide your buckle on there to the center. Make sure that we're centered, okay? You're gonna take a pen that can be erased, and you're gonna mark that little line right there, right here. See that where I marked it? It's right underneath the buckle, okay? Now you go ahead and take your buckle off. And then she says, go 1/8 of an inch down from that mark. I'm gonna mark 1/8 of an inch right here this way. And we know that this is going to be 3/4 of an inch. So we're gonna go ahead and mark 3/8 up from this side. And I'm gonna flip it around. And I'll mark 3/8 of an inch from this side. I'd recommend a 3 or a 3.5 punch hole just so that it stays in place right. Less is more. Let's go with 3 millimeters, okay? So the 3 millimeter punch, we're going to punch right there in the center where we marked. Okay? So mark it, punch it. Okay. Okay, so we removed all of our marks. And just make sure that it was centered. One more thing to add, you need to make sure that it's facing up. If you have a directional thing like this, that it's facing up. I forgot to tell you that, okay? So that's my mark right there, and it's gonna be on this side because that's what's facing up. I want my butterflies to face up. I'm just gonna put that aside for now. Now, I have this old buckle that I'm not gonna use for this project. You're gonna take this piece here and go ahead and raise up the back of the buckle. Sometimes a screwdriver works, but you want to lift that up and off the bar. Okay? So no use for that buckle any longer. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on my makeshift buckle. Okay? So it stays. And there's your buckle. Okay? Now we're going to take this and we're going to come up all the way to the center with your buckle thing facing that way. And you're going to find your hole. And you're going to stick that buckle piece through there. Making sure it's straight. And you're going to bring this back down. And pull it through. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and measure it again. 6.5 and 6.5. So your buckle is now centered. And I'm going to be putting it on like that. We can put that aside for a second because we don't need that right now. Okay. You're going to go ahead and cut one side straight and square. Okay. And when you're finished with that, we're going to cut 4 at 2 3/8. We have 4 strap loops. I'm gonna use my block just to straighten these out so they're all straight. And with one fail sweep, I'm gonna go ahead and mark 1/4 inch from the bottom, because you wanna have the center. Then I'm gonna switch these back around, and I'm gonna repeat the exact same process. So now you're just gonna go ahead and mark 1/4 inch right there in the center. And you can just double check it in case you're not sure if it's centered, and which mine are. So you're gonna do that on all 4 of these, okay? So those are all centered. Because this is a smaller area, I am gonna be using smaller rivets, which will be the smaller ones. I know in the pattern it calls for 9 millimeters, but I'm using 6 millimeters because I kept bending my 9 millimeters. Go ahead and punch out the centers of all 4 of them, so you'll make 8 holes in the center. Okay, all those are marked. Now the next step you're gonna wanna do, I did bring these up in the last video. These are my washers, okay? I got a hack for you guys. I found this punch on Amazon so that you guys can go ahead and work along with me and have the same thing. You just take this punch, it's a 5/8 of an inch punch, and punch out 20 of these. If you fold it over, it's 2, you'll have to punch out 10, okay? And just keep punching a bunch out. They don't have to be perfectly straight, they just have to be for the back of the things. Okay, there's a bunch of them, just to show you, okay? This is really a nice heavy duty punch. In my crafting days, I really wish I would have had one of these. Then you're gonna take your punch again and just go ahead and find the center and punch a hole in the middle of it. And there you have your own DIY hacked washers, okay? And just punch out the center as good as you can get it. So what I like to do, and we're gonna do it all at once. I just take a bunch of these. I take 8 of them because we need 8 of them. You should have all your important stuff punched out already. There's 5 here, 5 here. Don't use the center ones because you don't need those. Make sure the center mark is here for your buckle. You need 7/8 of an inch marked up here because that's where we're gonna go ahead and sew that on. You need your piping stuff on there, okay? Everything is all ready to go. I'm just gonna make sure that my holes are adequate. So I wanna make sure that these go in easily. So we'll be putting 8 of them on and they work great. Okay. So now I want you to do, remember I taught you this in the other videos. You always load your studs from the back side. Always from the back side. Those are all loaded on there. Now I want you to take these, where the crack is in the middle, that needs to be facing up. You're gonna load them all on the first one. Okay, so it looks like this. And just glance back one more time and make sure these are all facing up, which they are. Then you just want to double check and make sure they're straight on there. Okay, we're good to go. Now you're going to need your mallet. You're going to need something to hit it with, and not the bumpy side, but flip it over this way, okay? Put it underneath each one of those. Take a cap. Oh, I should have done that first. Put the caps on them. Make sure you hear it snap. Okay, so they're all in place there. If they adjusted or moved, just put it back where it belongs. Now we can do 2 at a time because we can just clip them on there like that. Okay, and now we're going to hit them with the mallet and set them in place. Well, now we're going to flip it over here. Make sure you're on the middle. We're going to do the same thing. Okay, so that's done. Now we're gonna flip these over this way and argue with them because they're gonna wanna win. I'm telling you, it's like a pain in the butt. You're gonna push them in like that. So I hope you can see that. You push them in like that. So your little thing is sticking out. Then you're gonna put your cap on there and hear it snap. Okay, you wanna make sure it's straightened out. Nice and neat. You're probably going, well, how am I gonna set that? Okay, well, that's pretty easy. Flip it over like this. Push it down to the bottom part of it like this, okay? And put it on top of there. Take your center. Give it a couple of good whacks. See? So let's continue to argue with the other three. Never know what's gonna happen. These things have a personality of their own. And then we'll come back and set them all. Give it a nice little push down from the back side again. Okay, and then we're gonna go on here and we're gonna set them all. Just put it on top of your metal plate. Put your setter on top of it and give it a couple whacks. Push them up. All right, so from the bottom up, we're gonna mark 7/8 of an inch. Okay? Do that on both sides. Remember, you have your center marked right here that I had you mark earlier. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and do the top front. See, we have all these in place. Go ahead and kind of push these out of the way a little bit, okay? I wanna make sure one more time that we did mark this. Okay? You can do it from the back side as well, which I already did. So that when you put it together, it lines up properly, okay? So just hypothetically, so you can see, mark it there, mark it there. Make sure we're still centered. There, and there, okay? All right, so we have this here. We're gonna go ahead and tape this off. Remove your tape from both pieces. We're gonna go ahead and find the centers, like we did on the other one. So you know exactly where you're gonna mark it, because you already have it taped and marked. So go ahead and line those little guys up right there and walk it through to the other side. Don't stretch anything. Okay? Clip this in place so it doesn't move. You know where it's marked, so you know where it has to go. Just right there. And go ahead and walk them into place where they belong. And walk it across. And voila. Clip it in place. We're gonna go in the other room. We're gonna sew 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then when we're done with that, we're gonna flip it open and we're gonna top stitch on top of that, okay? So we have the back with the handle and the zipper pocket. And then we have the front with the handles and the decorative strap loops, okay? So I'll meet you over at the sewing machine. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do the front one first because the back one we need to put our zipper foot back on, all right? So we'll be sewing 1/4 inch seam allowance, all right? So just make sure that you're on your 1/4 inch mark. Okay, go ahead and cut off your threads. This at 5/8 of an inch. Because when you flip this up and you do your top stitching, you want it all to be the same. Because if it's not, you're gonna run into problems. You'll have one side longer than the other, and I just choose 5/8 and that's what I go with. And that way that when I go ahead and put my gusset on and I put my piping on and I have everything together, they're all gonna be the same. All right. So after we mark the 5/8 of an inch, you're gonna wanna put some tape on there. And just flip this up like this. Keep your straps down because we're not going over those anyways. and just bring that up to the 5/8 of an inch line. That will ensure that when you go to put this together with your gusset and everything else, that everything is going to fit properly. Okay? Because I want to go ahead and sew this at 1/8 of an inch very neatly, as neat as I can get. Okay? All right. So we're sewing 1/8 of an inch top stitch. You're going to go ahead and back stitch in the beginning and the end. Back stitch in the beginning and the end. Now when you get to your strap, just keep it in the angle that it's at. Don't try to maneuver it any differently than what it is. Okay, go ahead and cut your threads. And we're going to go ahead and work on the zipper panel. So we're going to be doing the exact same thing. We're going to be sewing 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Be sure to back stitch in the beginning and the end. And then go ahead and back stitch at the end. Flip it open to the back side. Keep your handles down. It should, most of the time, it will always go into the 5/8 of an inch because the thickness of materials, from my experience, it's just the way it falls. And it's just a good practice to get into if you really are OCD. If you're not OCD and you're not picky about it, just sew it. But see how nice and clean that is now? Pull the zipper out of the way. Go ahead and brayer it down. And you have a really nice looking zipper this way too. See that? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance again. Back stitching in the beginning and the end. Now at this time, we're going to go ahead and close up the pocket. Okay? So you want to hold this into place like this, okay? You're going to turn it upside down. And we're going to be sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance on there. If you can bring it up more, you can. If you have a machine that will go further, then you're more than welcome to do that. If not, I recommend just turning it at an angle like this and sewing it off. There we go. You're going to go ahead and take this. It was like this, okay? You're going to fold the flap back, and we're going to do the exact same thing. 1/4 of an inch. Back stitching well in the beginning and the end. You can tip it like this. I know it looks a little dorky when I'm on my camera doing this, but you gotta be really careful if you're going to go forward anymore, because you do not want to stitch into this. So my recommendation is just go back and forth a couple of times, and that's it. Generally, if somebody's stuff is not going to slip out of that pocket. So that's what this looks like from that side. And here's the back. We're going to go back over to the work area, and we're going to go ahead and put rivets in here. And we're going to do the same thing on the front side. Okay. Okay, so now that we've got back from the sewing machine, we are going to be on page 20, number 22. And we'll also be on page 26, number 38. Because we are working the front and the back at the same time. So we're going to be attaching the straps to the bag. Okay? So I just wanted to let you know we're following along. So right now what we're planning on doing is I've already attached the strap here. So what we're going to do, I recommend that you true up your pattern and make sure that everything matches. If you followed along where I said to put it at 5/8 of an inch, this should match up perfectly so that when you get ready to sew it, that you won't have to worry about it not matching in the gusset area. And just walk it along, make sure everything is trued up and that everything matches, okay? So I already did the rivets here, and I'm gonna walk you through on the front panel how to do it. There's a couple of markings though that I would like you to go ahead and place. And we're gonna be doing that on the front and the back, okay? Because with everything getting moved and shifted and added and taken away, we just need to make sure that our piping marks are on there still. This will be at 1/8 of an inch down. So I already have those marked. Make sure you mark it with a pen that can be erased. And then we're gonna mark again at 1 7/8. That's gonna give us the 3/4 of an inch to start the piping the way that it belongs. So I did mark them with my erasable pen. So those are already there. It is a well on the back side. Do make sure you have your tape on there and anything else that you like to have. I'm gonna go back and cover these up with some tape. Oh, one more thing I wanna add, okay? Somebody was asking in the Shamballa group, well, what do you do when your pockets are open on the side? Well, generally things aren't gonna fall out, but I did this as a tester on this bag just to show you guys for reference. I came in 1/4 of an inch from this edge here and in the center and made a hole and put in a 6mm rivet here. As well, did the same thing here, okay? So that will reassure you that nobody's stuff is gonna fall out of the bag, okay? So that's all done. If you have not already trued up your sides before we went and put this together, you can do that now. You're just gonna hold a ruler on here like this, at this point, and at the point right here, and just take your rotary cutter and just go along there and true that up. You're gonna do the same thing on this side as well. Remove your zipper out of the way, and you're gonna hold it at this point here and this point here, and just gonna cut along the line and make sure that that is all trued up on your back. So that is ready to go for its piping. So just to recap on the back, we have a nice big huge pocket that's closed up. We'll be adding piping later on in the video, so you can just set that aside for now, because now we're gonna work on the logo badge. We'll be adding our decorative strap in the appropriate place where it belongs. And we'll be also matching this up so it goes here, because we need to go ahead and put that on next. So before we start, I'm going to do the exact same thing we just did. I recommend you marking these as well with an erasable pen. We're going to mark at 1 1/8 inch, which is going to go here and here. That's where the piping starts and stops. And then we're gonna go ahead and mark again at 1 7/8. That's where your 3/4 gets cut out right there, so that it can make that nice fan out for it. If you have any threads on the back that are sticking out from this, I recommend that you go ahead and burn it now. And then also one more marking that is not on the other one, which I've already done. We're gonna mark over at 2 3/4. Make sure it's squared, so it's 2 3/4 from the center line. Just go ahead and mark it with an erasable pen, and then do the same thing on this side. It's going to be 2 3/4. And we're marking that so we have a place to put the handles when we're putting them down, just to make sure it lays straight with the rivet, okay? So that's all out of the way now. The other thing on the front, I want you to make sure we did mark that 7/8 from the bottom here, but I want you to go ahead with your ruler and measure up now at 5/8 of an inch, because your seam allowance is gone. So now this is going to be 5/8 of an inch right there. Do that on both sides. Mark up 5/8 of an inch, making sure it's square, because when we go to put the decorative handle on, we need to have a place to attach that to. Okay, so I'm just going to put this aside for now. Per the instructions, she has you bring your tool here and go through your step just to make sure it matches, which mine does match very well. Now those markings I just gave you, which was 2 3/4, go ahead and line this up here while you have this in here. You don't want it all messed up. You can even just lay this flat, take it out, it doesn't matter. It's gonna fit where it belongs if you punch them out properly. So just go ahead and put that there. You do the same thing on this side just to make sure that everything is lining up correctly, which again mine is. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this here. Okay, it's just for reference. You don't have to do this, but I am really OCD when it comes to certain things, and that's one of them. Okay, so in order to do this, you're going to need your 2mm stud, 9mm studs for the back, and you're going to need 2 caps to go with that. You need a setter. And if you have to repunch holes, maybe you have to punch it out. Or you can use a strike plate, whatever you prefer to use, okay? So I'm gonna flip this over on the back side. And right here where we have it marked, we're gonna go ahead and put this 9mm rivet through there. Everything is lined up properly. It should just fit right in there, which it does. Take your rivet cap, put it on, and make sure you hear it snap. Okay? I don't like the way that one looks. Sometimes caps get kind of crazy. If your caps don't look right before you put them on, don't use them. Okay, you heard it snap? Okay, now we're gonna do the exact same thing. Okay, make sure it's pushed down all the way because this is a lot of layers for this to go through. And you wanna make sure that your rivet goes on properly. Okay, listen to it snap, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and put this underneath here and then put my striking thing on it. Okay, it's where it belongs. And then we're gonna go ahead and give it a couple whacks and set it. There we go. So the next part is just make sure you still have your center marked here with your erasable pen, because the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put this on. You're gonna have it in the center. I put reinforcement tape on mine here in the front and the back, and without too much long explanation, I got excited and ahead of myself and I put this on before I set this. Remember, these straps need to be set first and then your decorative strap goes on there. I was just so excited and I really wanted to see what it looked like. You know, you've been there. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and bring this through the little strap loopers. And then we're gonna load it on the other side as well. So yeah, I had to take it out with my seam ripper because I got so excited. I really wanted to see what it was gonna look like and just jumped way ahead of myself. All right. Make sure you're lined up on your center line with the back side of your buckle, which mine is. These should line up perfectly where they belong, okay? It's covering that up. Now, that's why I had you mark that 5/8 of an inch right there. Now you just want to take a clip and clip it into place. All right, so you tack that in place, okay? But before we go tack this in place, I want to go ahead and we're going to do the name tag or the logo badge. And how I do this is I go ahead and line this up on the bottom and then I flip it open here and I mark where it belongs. So here's your line. And if you want to make sure it's all correct, you can just go ahead and fold it like this and just mark out where whatever one you're going to use goes. Okay, this is the one I always use. Then you're going to take a pen that can be removed and you're just going to hold it up and don't put too much force in there, but I'll show you because I already pre-punched these two. Just lightly go in there and cut that open and do the same thing on the second one. Push it through and then drag it to the end of the line. That's all you got to do, okay? So that's ready to receive. So make sure you have it the right side up. It says handmade. I don't have a logo. I'm just me. So it says handmade. Then you're going to flip it over. And I like to make a little template out of the heavy deco bill, and I put that down first because I don't like it rubbing against the metal. Then you're going to take your tag here, your metal tag, put that on there, flip it over, and make sure that it's straight before you do anything. So just line it up there, making sure that it's straight. Looks good to me. And now this is all about tomato, peanut butter jelly. Some people say flip it out, some people say flip it in. I'm just gonna flip it in, just for the sake of doing it. And then I like to use my strike plate to push it down a little bit, just to make sure that they're in place where they belong, okay? This thing comes in handy, tandy leather strike plate. So there you go. And then when I go back, after I top stitch this on or, you know, secure it in place, I'll go back and I'll put tape over all these, just so that the rivets aren't exposing to the back side, and I'll do the same thing here so it's not exposed. So there's your name tag. We're gonna go in the other room. I'm gonna do it off camera. Okay, so just make sure nothing moved here. This looks really beautiful, I love it. Okay, we're gonna go in the other room and we're just gonna tack this down at 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm gonna go in my iron room and I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna iron on some deco bill to the back side where those rivets are. Same thing on this side, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of tape on the back of this. All right, see you at the sewing table. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and tack this down, which is the decorative strap, and we're going to be doing that at 1/8 of an inch. Make sure you have it on that 5/8 of an inch line. And we're tacking it down at 1/8 of an inch. Be sure to backstitch in the beginning and the end. Okay, and go ahead and cut your threads, and we're going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, so we're on the 5/8 of an inch line once again, and we're going to go ahead and backstitch that moving forward and backstitching at the end, and we're just tacking it down at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and there we go. We have 1/8 of an inch from the 5/8 of an inch mark up. So it'll look just like this on this side and like this on this side. So that's nice and straight. All right, we're going to go back over to the work table, and we're going to start working on our piping. Okay, so we're going to put piping on the bag. I want to talk about this. I said I was going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it, okay? There are different feet to put your piping on. The main thing is you need this groove right there. Try to get this to focus in. There's a groove on the foot that the piping goes through. There are several different types of piping feet, and I'm just showing this to you so you can get a good view of it. Each machine and manufacturer has different type of piping feet, okay? This one is from Bowie. I bought this one off of Amazon. I don't like the middle part that comes with it, so generally I'll just use a different foot with it. So, these are from Sailrite. They're very expensive. They're more than the ones on Amazon, and they have different piping feet. When I use that Bowie one, I generally will use something like this to where it has the groove here on the edge. It's not like your regular foot. Trying to get this to zoom in here. So you have different feet. This will go along the edge of the piping. So for example, you're doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You don't want to push this all the way over. So this foot works great for this, okay? And it goes right along the edge. You don't need this foot to go along with it to push it in the way. Well, I gotta get my fingers out of the way. You don't need this foot per se to put on piping, okay? I'm gonna show you this close up. Okay, it does ride on the edge right there, but when you have a gusset sitting between it, it's not gonna work out. It's just gonna push it out of the way. So back to this foot here, which has the edge on it. It's going to allow you to keep your 1/4 inch seam allowance, because the way that Sammy has made this bag, I know some people like their piping to fit really tight, but the problem is when you look at it, you're going to end up seeing a stitch line right here if you put the piping on that tight, because this is not a 1/4 inch. This is a 1/4 inch. So you have this extra space in here to fill the gap to give it more of that designer bag look that I believe Sammy has intended for. We're cutting 1/4 of an inch strips, and we're putting in 3mm piping. Now, you can use different types of piping substrates. You can use cotton, you can use rubber, you can use foam, you can use plastic. I generally stick with upholstery foam. I like the way my bags look with it, okay? So, your whole goal is to achieve a 1/4 inch coming along here. And you can see here, you don't want to push it out of the way because that's going to pull it off your bag. So when you're putting your piping on, I'm trying to bring this up to the camera here so you can see it a little bit better. You have your piping foot, and it's just riding right along the edge there. It's just going to ride right along the edge where that 1/4 inch is. There's enough room here to fit a 1/4 inch. If you were to push this all the way up into here, that would be 3/8 of an inch. It would not be the 1/4 inch that's required for this particular pattern. This is not upholstery. This is not chair cushions. This is piping that goes on the bag, which gives it the skeleton look that it needs to give it the structure for the bag. So I just really wanted to go over these feet, okay? So generally what I will use is the ones from Sailrite. They have a different profile on them altogether. It's open in the back, and it just rides right along the piping at the diameter that I need, which is a 1/4 inch. You can use your your right zipper foot with this foot. You could use their foot that came with it, but again, I'm not a big fan of the way that they're riding on the piping. So for say it goes on here, then it's pushing my piping out too much. And then it comes on here like this. And I feel it doesn't give it the justice that it needs. So generally, and I'll show you this when we get back to the machine, I will use a 3/16 of an inch foot from Sailrite. And with Sailrites, you can see here, maybe you can't. Let me see if I can get it to focus in. You can see right there, it says Sailrite 3/16. And that's the same thing with their 1/4 inch one. You could use a 1/4 inch or you can use 3/16. The only difference on that is how big this hole is on the bottom. So you're going to come along here and it will sew a little bit closer to where you need it to be. But you need to be careful because you can go completely rogue. And where your corners are, you can push them in too much. So you need to be careful and you need to practice. Really, the best advice I can give you for piping is to practice. Because you're not going to get good at anything you do until you practice it and have done it at least 10 times. Okay? Because we like to think we're all good. I mean, I'm still learning and I've been sewing for a long time. I learn something new every day. So, I mean, you have to practice. And that's something that I was going to bring up to you guys. So, you can practice. Just take half the pattern. Or you can take the bottom and the top of this together without the zipper, but I wouldn't use that one because that has that big gap there. Instead of adding all the bells and whistles on this, just take the bottom without the cutout geometrics. Take the bottom that's provided in the template and take the top, sew it together at 1/4 of an inch. Then take some piping that you aren't going to use or some scrap fabrics and practice, 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 practice. Put it on, cut out a fake gusset, practice. That's going to make you better at piping. You guys, it's the biggest thing. Don't be scared of it because piping isn't hard. The hardest thing is trying to find the foot to put it on with. And the second hardest thing is making yourself not be scared to do it. We're going to make mistakes. That's what seam rippers are for. None of the sewers that are out there, even as content creators on YouTube, will tell you that they're the best at what they do. I mean, today I had to get a hold of Lauren from Know Me More Me Know, because I had set my rivet and I had a big huge hole in the middle of my rivet and I didn't know why. So come to find out, I was hitting it 5 times. You only need to hit it once or twice. That's it. So I thought there was something wrong with the rivets. No, it was nothing wrong with the rivets. It was me. So, I mean, you don't learn unless you try, and you just keep trying to get it right. And after you promise yourself you're going to make like 10 bags with piping. And after 10 bags, you still don't have it right, well, then maybe you shouldn't be doing piping. But I really wanted to point this out to you because I did say I was going to talk about piping. So, for this particular pattern, just take your bottom and take one of the tops. Sew it together at 1/4 of an inch. Throw some Decorative on the back of it so that it has a little bit of structure. Cut yourself out a 32-inch piece of piping and piping sheath for it. Practice, practice, practice. Cut out a fake gusset, practice. That's the only way you're going to get better at doing piping. And I'm still learning. So that being said, and my big charade about piping, we're going to go ahead and put the piping on. So you're going to find your center and mark it with something that, you know, you can erase. I put it on both sides. Put some tape on the back of your piping. Go ahead and remove your tape. Don't put the tape backing in your coffee cup because it sucks. You can't drink it then. All right, so we're going to find the center and we're going to put it on the center of the bag. Okay? One more thing, and I forgot to show you guys this. If you just use Decorative, you're going to have no structure inside the bag. So the one point I want to add here is if you want a little bit more structure to the bag, you might want to go ahead and put foam in there or Eva. And that's the next point I forgot I needed to do. I started ranting about piping, and so I need to throw some Eva on the back of here real quick, and then I'll be right back and we'll finish piping. So before I put my Eva foam on, I like to cover up the name tag plate on the back. And yes, I'm still using old school heat duct tape. Works for me. Okay, so all this is covered up the way it belongs. Doesn't show nothing on the front side. Doesn't affect anything I'm doing. And what I do it because I want to keep this away from my interior of my bag in case something happens. And this generally will hold good. I have not had a customer complain about it yet, okay? So we are going to take the back panel stabilizer for the back side and cut that off. For the front side, I made a template on my Cricut machine, which was the bottom stabilizer plus the top stabilizer. And I came down a 1/2 inch and welded it together and came up with this big piece. So you can make that yourself, okay? I will be using 2mm Eva foam that is sticky, which you can buy on Amazon, and I can list that in the link below. So this is how I do it. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and go offline, cut these out, and I'll come back when they're all cut out and I can show you how to apply it to the back of your bag. Okay, so I have these pieces cut out now. So in order to make the Eva foam that's sticky work, you need to take the backing off of it. You're going to line it up basically where your stabilizer already was. I like to come a little bit lower than my line. And just let it kind of fall down where it is, because you really just want this to make it so it's more stable. Okay? And you need to keep it out of this line right here, okay? It's pretty forgiving. Okay, so that's how I want that on there. That's the foam sticky stabilizer. And it's just going to give me enough stabilization to where I have more stability in my bag. I don't want it to be like I'm going to beat somebody over the head with it. So once you get it on there the way you like it, you just roll it in place. You can, it's easier sometimes if you come from the front to do that top part. And along here too, because you want to get those handles in place where it needs to go. So it's easier if you just come sometimes from the front. And just roll it in place, especially on the seam areas. Give it a little bit extra grease power. And then around where your tag is. And along the edges here. And then I like to move the handle out of the way a little bit. And just go ahead and roll that in place there, just giving it that extra. And then I flip it over one more time and just give it a little bit more extra. This is only the 1mm, so it is pretty thin. I guess I ran out of the 2mm. Generally, I would go for the 2mm, but I guess I ran out. But really, you need to stay away from this line right here, no matter what you add on there, whether it be foam, extra stabilizer, whatever it is. But see, now my bag is nice and stable, and it holds itself up without killing somebody. So that's the Eva foam. Now the back is just a little bit different. When you're doing this, you really don't want to put it over your pocket. You want to put it under your pocket. So I'm just going to clip this out of the way for now. Okay. So my bottom one was the size of the stabilizer minus 1/4 inch because that was in the seam allowance. Okay. So I'm just going to recap one more time. It's the bottom stabilizer that the pattern piece is in the pattern minus 1/4 inch from the top because that's the seam allowance. So you have this marked at 3/8 to place your other stabilizer on there. And that's basically what you're going to do is just put it right over your other stabilizer. Press it down lightly with your fingers and then come back with a roller and roll it in place. And that's going to give you the structure that you need. And just flip it over from the front side and just roll it back down where that seam allowance was and where your top stitch is. That's going to give you the nice structure you need, okay? Then let your pocket go back down where it belongs. Make sure that you cover up your rivets. You don't have to. I guess back from the swoon days, it was just something that we did. And never surpassed that. I just always still do it. I don't really see anybody doing it anymore, but I'm doing it anyways. Okay. My rivet posts are covered up. Okay. So now for the top, which was the top stabilizer, and I went ahead and added an inch to that. So it was a top stabilizer from both of the pieces and added 1 inch to the bottom. So it looks like this, okay? It's gonna be the exact same thing, okay? So just remove the sticky stuff. This one is a little bit trickier to put on because you do have the extra bulky seams. Seems like one piece was easier than the single. Okay. So I'm going to center that on there as good as I can get it. As long as I'm without my seam allowance and I stay out of this line right here. I really want to see that line when I pull my stuff down. Okay. Just when you get up here, pull it down a little bit. Just lightly push it in place. There you go. And on this one, I try to go from the top as well. Just rolling it in place. And that's going to give you that extra stability you need without giving you the bulk or the weight. Move the zipper out of the way. And just lightly go over the zipper area. I like to focus a little bit more on this handle area because it likes to pop back up. Then just turn it around, make sure everything is in there where it belongs. You just give it a couple more rolls lightly. Don't want to get too crazy. But this needs to be put on before you're piping. And if you're not going to do piping, you can just move on to the next section. Because now we're going to go back and discuss the piping again. Okay? So we already marked our seam lines here, which was 1/8 of an inch down and 1 7/8 of an inch down. That's for the piping because it's going to start here, go all the way around and stop there. 3/4 of an inch down, you're going to make that notch so that it can go off to the side. So I got my piping here. We got my tape removed. And we're going to go ahead and put center to center. Oh, and just get this pocket out of your way when you're working on the bottom. Otherwise, it slides all over the place. You're just going to walk it across. And just press it down with your fingers. I have the tape on there so it's holding in place. If it doesn't meet to the edge, just kind of pull it back off and put it where you want it to be. Okay, here too. Kind of does what it wants sometimes. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and take my roller, my brayer, and I will just give that a nice little press. And then I'll clip it in place. Because we will be sewing a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance around this to hold it in place so when we put our gusset on, it's not all over the place wonky. So I'll be putting my piping foot on later, not now. Just to secure this in place at 1/8 of an inch, you can just use your regular foot. You don't need anything special, okay? So then we're going to take our scissors. You don't need a bunch of notches in here. You just need some. So I'm going to cut about every 1/4 inch for about 10 notches. That should be more than enough to get me where I got to go. Okay. You might want to pull these extra threads out of the way because I've had several times where I turned the bag inside out and I've had to sit there with the tweezers and try to fight with the excess thread. So just pick them out now. It saves trouble down the road. Okay. So when you come up here on your curve, the best practice is to pull it forward a little bit like this before you hit the curve. So just hold it there and pull it a little bit and then just kind of walk it in place with your fingers. Okay, just like that. Then push it down. Oh, my tape's coming off again. Yeah. For some reason, my hyper stick's not working. I did reach out to Waywack, to Joe, and they did say they did have a bad batch of the hyper stick. So, yeah, it's probably why I'm having problems with my stuff not sticking. Okay, so you got those in place where you want them to go. Take your fingernail and just kind of go around it a little bit. Make sure you don't have any weird stuff going on. And then go ahead and clip that in place as well. If it escapes, just bring it back to where it belongs. Because you want this on the edge right there. And then you're going to continue. Then you're going to continue your way up until you hit that mark right there. And I'm just going to go ahead and clip it in place right there for now. I'm just going to do nothing with it. Then we're going to come back to this side and repeat the exact same thing. About every 1/4 inch and do about 10 snips. So it's about 2.5, 3 inches that you're snipping into. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and remove those weird threads I just cut. Don't want them in my way later on down the road. Okay, and then you're going to do the exact same thing. A lot of times I find it's more useful to do it the opposite way from me instead of sitting in front of it. Now we're just going to walk back up to this part here. Go all the way up. Now in the event that this was a little bit shorter here, I compensate for the difference. I just bring it out so that it's from here to here, one straight line. So on the back side, you'll see the piping just a little bit. Oh, I see you can see that a little bit where it's off right there a little. It's not really going to change too much from your bag. As long as it's below 1/16 of an inch, you're okay. Okay. So you can take your brayer and just run your fingers across everything here. That's a 1 1/8 inch line. I'm going to put it above it only on the piping. Right there. And snip it across. Only on the piping. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Pull that up, bring it back over where it was. Only on the piping. So I like to put it above my bag and only on the piping. And then just cut it across. Only on the piping. So I cut that little bit off, okay? Now, okay, so the next part we're going to do is take a ruler. I have a million of them sitting here and never can find one. Isn't that the way it always goes? Okay. From the top here, which was the 1 1/8 inch down, which now will become 1 7/8 of an inch down, which is 3/4 of an inch. I hope that's not too much information. You're going to take and mark that on both sides, which is basically, in a nutshell, short abbreviation, 3/4 of an inch down from the piping. Okay. Now I'm going to take my seam ripper and I'm going to pop the stitches right here, just so they're out of the way. Just get them out of the way, pull the threads out. You don't need them. And plus you don't want them sticking up on the other side. You're going to open your piping up. First I'm going to make a snip right here at the 3/4 of an inch mark. I'm going to go 3/16 of an inch in at 3/4 of an inch. And now we're going to do the banana split. Pull your piping apart to that 3/4 of an inch mark. Pull your fabric away like a banana split. Go ahead and cut your piping off at the 3/4 of an inch mark. Put your banana split back together, just like that. And at the 3/4 of an inch mark, that was 3/16 of an inch up, go ahead and make a V-notch. About 1/8 of an inch wide. So it's going to be 1/4 inch altogether, okay? Take this excess thread that's in your way and get it out of your way so it doesn't fray out. Because you don't want that stuff sticking out of your project. And now you're going to go back up here to where that 3/4 inch was. I don't generally like to use staples anymore because I threw my timing out of my machine. It was bad. So if I use a stapler now, it's usually just for this. So at the 3/4 of an inch mark, I go ahead and put one staple above the 1/8 of an inch that I'm gonna sew, but below the 1/4 inch what's gonna be sewn too. I hope that makes sense. Now I'm gonna take a little bit more tape because I want it to stay where it belongs, and I really don't want to put staples in here because my machine and I had it out the other day because of staples. I mean, I'm telling you, that staple got stuck in my dog feed and went down into my bobbin casing, and then from there it went into cog wheels. Oh my God, it was a hot mess having to reset my timing on my industrial machine. So if you're going to use staples, do it responsibly and keep it out of the way. Okay, so we're at the 3/4 of an inch mark here. You're just going to pull this over back to the 1/8 of an inch mark. Okay? Just press it down with your fingers real well. It should hold in place. If it doesn't, go ahead and clip it. Because really, honestly, I do not want to use staples again. Not after that hot mess I just had to do last week. Okay, so now we're going to go back over to this side and we're going to repeat the exact same thing, okay? We're going to remove the stitches. Then you're going to go ahead and bring it back facing you and snip it at about 3/16 of an inch at the 3/4 of an inch mark. Before 1/4, but after 1/8. And then we're going to repeat the exact same thing. We're going to do the banana split. It just looks like a banana split when you start peeling it apart. Now, you're going to go at that 3/4 of an inch line and only cut your piping, not your sheath. Okay? Now you're going to go ahead and push it back down where it was. And then you're going to go ahead, make sure it's all attached, and cut your V-notch out. There's your V-notch. I'm going to add another piece of tape real quick before I staple it. Okay, I'm just going to add another little piece of tape here just to give myself that extra security, okay? All right, put it back at the 3/4 of an inch mark where it belongs. Remove your tape backing. Go ahead and put your staple in there at the 3/4 of an inch mark, or a clip, whatever works for you best. Keeping it out of the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then just bring it over to that 1 1/8 inch mark. Okay, all right. Now you're on the back side. You can go ahead and cut off that excess that you just have there. You don't need it any longer. And go ahead and replace your clip. And do the same thing on this side. Just getting it out of the way. Okay, so this is my seam allowance here. I don't really want to go past that. So there, that piece is ready to go. And if you turn it back around and something doesn't look right, just pull it back off and put it back on. I don't like the way that one's sitting. And there you have it. That's how you put your piping on. We're going to go and sew 1/8 of an inch all the way around. When you're on your corners and you're sewing this and you see that this is starting to pull off, just take it off and put it back down. And then you may want to go ahead and put clips there too then at the same time, because you don't want that coming off again. Tape is a love-hate relationship. Staples can damage your machine. So yeah, sometimes it's just better to double check your stuff and make sure it's the way you want it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put one more here. When you're sewing your piping, you need to make sure this pocket is out of the way, because this pocket just barely fits here on the bottom, And you don't want it getting stuck in anything, okay? So I'm just gonna put a couple more pieces on here. You always want to make sure that your piping is sitting on the edge there, not over the edge, because then you'll have problems. So if you're walking back along there and you see it's on the edge further than it's supposed to, you just pull it back with the tape. Okay, and this, I don't like the way it's coming off again. So I'll just go ahead and put it back in there where it belongs. And again, with piping, it really does take practice. Practice, practice, practice. I mean, after you've done 10 bags and you still don't like it, then okay, give up. But before you can say that, you really need to practice, because my piping didn't look good when I first started either. Oh my God, it was hideous. So yeah, and the only way you're going to get better at something is if you try. So that is finished. We take that over to the machine. We're going to sew 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around so that we can go ahead and put our gusset on. I'm going to go ahead and do the front of the bag now off screen. And then I'll meet you back over at the sewing machine with both pieces, and we'll go ahead and sew the piping on. Okay, so we're getting ready to tack the piping into place. This is only a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and it's just to tack the piping into place to hold there where we're putting the gusset on. Be careful if you have a staple in here, be sure that you don't hit your staples. My stitch is set at 4.5, and this is again just to tack it into place. If you notice that the tape is starting to come off or it's coming off the corners, just go ahead and pull out a pliers or something and get it put back in place the way it belongs. Just pull it up off the tape area and then just put it back down. Sometimes the tape can push it one way or the other, and you really want it to stay on that right here. You don't want it going past your front or back piece. I want to make sure that these are meeting up in the corners, so I'm going to go ahead and pull them back just a little bit because they look like they came off in transport. And stapling is nice because it does kind of stay in place, but it really isn't good for your machine if those staples break off. Okay, I'm coming up on my staple here, so I need to be really careful not to hit that. I'll make sure that's off there where it belongs. I'm sorry, my hands are in the way, but I needed to make sure I didn't hit that staple. If you have any extra right here, just go ahead and trim it off because you want that going into the corner where it belongs. You don't want that extra there. And just double check your work. Make sure that nothing is hanging off where it doesn't belong, and cut your threads. You can go ahead and remove the staples if you have any in there, because the next step we're going to do is the gusset. I'm going to go ahead and do the front one now. Doing the front is going to be exactly the same as the back. I will fast forward to this, but I just want to point out where this decorative strap is. You need to go ahead and just tack that back a couple times just to make sure it doesn't get shoved or pushed. So again, it's going to be 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Be sure to back tack in the beginning and the end. Okay, and so when you get up to this point right here, that's where your decorative strap is. It's going to be a little bit bulkier. Take your time going over it. If you have staples in the way there, just be careful not to hit them, because it can throw off the timing in your machine. And then the rest of it should be okay. It's just really those two spots you really want to watch out for. And again, we're going to do the same thing, flip it around. If you see anything that's unusual, just go ahead and cut it off. Most of the time, your piping is not going to stick out over the edge there. It's going to stay where it belongs. So that's it. All right, so we're going to go back over to the work table. And we're going to get ready to put the gusset together. Okay, so we got our piping all finished. And it's ready to go. Now the next step that I would like you to do, and this is just a suggestion, is I like to take my gusset piece and I like to test it just to make sure that it's going to fit across here. So it's called walking your gusset. So I'm just going to go ahead and start clipping up here. And then I'm going to bring it down here in the middle where it's marked where my sew line is and put it right there. And then I'm just going to walk it around and make sure that it fits my gusset. If it's too loose, you might have to take a little bit off. And if it's too long, instead of making a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, we're going to make a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And generally, the patterns are designed to fit pretty good. But when you iron on stabilizer or make thicker materials on there, it changes everything. All right, so that's 3/8 of an inch right there. So it's the same thing. So I'm not gonna have to really change anything on my pattern. It's exactly 3/8 of an inch. And this is why you walk your gusset before you put it together. You rule everything out, okay? So if you're putting these two pieces together and they're exactly the same, which they are, then you know that this is gonna be squared up and true. So then you're gonna put your gusset on there. Again, I'm just gonna show you real quick. Now that I remarked my 3/8 of an inch line, I'm just going to walk it across here real quick, just to show you. Now there's my 3/8 of an inch line, which moved down that 1/16 of an inch because it stretched out while it was being ironed. I pre-press my material before I cut it out, but that doesn't mean anything because when you go to put your stabilizer on there, it does change things a little bit. So when I put this all together, now it fits perfectly right there in the corner. So when I'm sewing along, this is going to be a perfect fit everywhere through. Okay? So you really want this to fit really perfect. But if you can't, you can just leave it alone. And maybe it's something later on you want to revisit. But it's always important to walk this gusset. If you're too short, too long, it generally has to do with the thickness of the material, okay? All right, so our front and back is done. We're gonna put that aside for now. And now we're gonna discuss the hidden strap connector, okay? So for this, you're gonna need 4 rivets, the 9mm rivets, which were suggested in the pattern. You're gonna need 2 D-rings that are 3/4 of an inch. And then you're going to need 1 strap. This is for the method that I do, okay? You're going to need 1 long piece. It's 7.5 by 1 5/8. I'll go ahead and put it up there on the screen for you to see it. So it's 7.5 by 1 5/8. So I'm just going to roll my tape down to remove it. And when I say to remove my tape, I'm meaning the tape backing. If you watch enough of my videos, everybody laughs. I have my own language. Okay, so you're going to fold that into the center. And this is optional for you to top stitch it. You don't have to, because the rivets are going to hold it in place where it belongs. I'm going to run over to the sewing machine and I am going to top stitch mine because I like the decorative top stitching on there. You don't have to do it. Okay, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch on each side and I'll be right back, okay? Okay, so I threw my top stitches in there offline because it wasn't like something exciting you needed to see. I ran 4 lines on there. Okay, so it was 7.5 before I sewed it. And it's now a little under 7.5. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this here at 3 3/4, which is half of it. And then I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing here. It's a hidden strap connector, so you don't see it. Okay? So now our measurement is just a hair under 3 3/4, okay? That's 2 of them. All right. So I'm just gonna show this to you real quick. So this is our pattern piece. I've made 5 of them, so I just mark everything. From here up is gonna be 14.5 inches. That's where the strap connector is gonna go, okay? I've already marked that on the other side, so I already have it cut out. But I did put stabilizer underneath here with black because I don't want it to show. And I do have my stabilizer over this, and I will be putting Eva foam when we're done putting this together before it gets constructed into the front and back. So I'm just gonna show you how this works, okay? So you're gonna mark from the bottom up, which is gonna be your 14.5 inches. All right? Which is gonna be that line right there. Then you're gonna mark 3/8 of an inch on each side, because that's gonna give you your 3/4 of an inch. So this was my center already marked, and I'm just walking you through this, okay? So you're gonna mark your center line with something that can be erased, okay? So there's my center line. And you're gonna do this on both pieces, okay? So we're gonna do the same thing here. And then you need a utility knife. Then you're just gonna line it up, and you're gonna go from punch mark to punch mark. And just cut it with your utility knife, even and straight. Make sure you're going through all the layers. So there we go. Okay, we're going to repeat the same thing on this side. So when it's all finished, it's nice and clean, okay? Because now we're going to do the strap connectors, which are going to go straight through there. And it's going to fit really nice, okay? All right, let me clean this other one up, and then we'll go on to the strap connectors. And look, that's not perfect, but you know what? The strap connector is going to cover it up, and that's okay. You know? And that's the back side. And don't forget on your other one to mark your rivets. I forgot to mark that. But I already pre-punched before I iron. Before I stabilize. So if you forget, just you can go back in there and do it again. There. So there's my holes. There's the back side. Oops, that one didn't go through. Oh no, it did. Okay. So yeah, just make sure your holes go through. Okay. Okay. So now you don't need the D-rings yet because we're going to go in the other room and sew. So now what you're going to do is take your hidden strap connector. You're going to turn it so it's with the seam side up. Okay. You're going to tuck it into your little area here. And pull it through on the back side. So when you're looking from the back side, it's going to be pretty side up. When you're looking from the front side, it's going to be the back side of the hidden strap connector. You're going to take this top side here and you're going to line it up flush with your gusset, okay? Make sure that this is coming out nice and straight the way it belongs because you want this in here straight. Okay? I like to take 1/8 of an inch and mark it on there because we'll be sewing at 1/8 of an inch, okay? So let me go ahead and do this one as well. So you're going to start right here before the hidden strap connector, and we're going to go all the way across and stop before the hidden strap connector. And we're coming back to the middle, okay? All right, we're going to go into the sewing room and we're just going to sew this and come back out here and put this together. All right, so now we're over at the sewing machine and my stitch length is still set at 4.5. I haven't changed that at all. You're going to need to hold your threads. I put a different plate on top of here so I can show you guys a little bit better. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start on that 1/8 of an inch line before the strap connector. Okay. We're going to go forward. Then you don't want to go past your strap connector, so you're going to go right there. I hope you guys can see that. We're going to stop before the strap connector on the 1/8 of an inch line. And then we're going to go back, all the way back, 1, 2, 3, and back forward, and make 2 stitches and back stitch. That's it. Go ahead and cut your threads. All right, and I'm going to do it one more time on this one. And your 1/8 of an inch line. And we're going to go forward. That last one you need to put in place. Right there. And then we're going to go back 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Make sure you're not going up, and then go forward 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. Because you really want to make sure that stays connected. Okay, go ahead and cut your threads. There. And that's what it looks like on the back side. So it's just holding that in place. And this is what it looks like from the front side. So you can remove that clip. And when you go to tuck that in, it's going to be hidden inside like this. Okay. Okay, so we have both of these finished. Now what we're going to do is put them pretty sides touching. Okay, so while we're here, we're going to go ahead and sew our 3/8 of an inch seam allowance so that we can go ahead and get that finished too, so we don't have to come back for that. And then we'll go ahead after that and start sewing the gusset together. Be sure to back stitch in the beginning and the end. Okay, so that's your 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we're going to butterfly that open. I'm going to go ahead and put some tape on there. Okay, so I got my tape put on here, and I went ahead and got an extra piece of heavy Decorative and put a piece of tape on there. So I'm going to butterfly this open. I'm going to remove the tape, and I'm going to go ahead and butterfly that open so that it's all straightened out there. And then what I like to do is I cut a piece of stabilizer. So I'm going to cut it right here because you don't want it to go past your seam allowance, okay? So I'm going to cut that. Then I take this 1 inch by 4 1/8 and I run it through here. I don't want to compromise my seam in any way if later on those stitches pop out, okay? So you're just going to center that in there before the 1/4 inch lines. You don't want it past that. Okay? Then you're going to flip it over, and then we're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch here, okay? So it's just 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to back stitch we're going to back stitch in the beginning and the end, and it's 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Go ahead and keep your needle down and turn. I'm going to go forward 1 stitch and back 1 stitch and back forward 1 stitch and turn it again. And we're going to continue on with our 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to turn it with the needle down again. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Going to go forward, back, and forward again. Then go ahead and cut off your threads, and I'll meet you back over at the prep table. We'll finish putting in the strap connectors and getting the piping, gusset, front and back all put together. Okay, so now we have our gusset put together. So it looks like this from this side. Now we're going to work back on the strap, hidden strap connectors, okay? So now you can remove your clips. And the first thing we're going to do is put our strap connectors on both sides. I'm only going to do one right now. Then you're going to tuck this in. You're going to pull this back and tuck it in. It takes a little bit of finagling. Just be patient so you don't tear anything. And you got it back on the back side. You're just going to pull it through. Okay? It's sticking out like that. You're just going to pull it through. Pull it all the way down as far as you can. Okay? And then you're going to flip it back on the right side and tug it forward a little bit and then push it back in. Okay? All right, so you want it sitting kind of like this, okay? This is the front. This is the back. You can straighten that out a little bit if you want. Okay, that's what that looks like. All right, I'm going to flip this forward. This is from the center mark, 1 5/8 of an inch, okay? Then what you're going to do, if you're happy with the way it looks, and I'm happy with the way it looks, you're going to take your punch and you're going to go in the rivet holes that you already made and punch through. Need to get a couple of washers here. You're gonna go ahead and load your stud, the back part with the stem on it. If you have a washer, you can use a washer. You don't need it. I like to protect my stuff. Then you're gonna flip it over from the back side and you're gonna put your rivets in. Remember, the studs always go from the back. And then you're gonna push it down so you can get your cap on. You're gonna put your cap on and listen to it snap. So if you're not using a press and you're using the rivet setter and a strike plate, I'm gonna suggest this to you now because I learned the hard way. 1 or 2 whacks. It sets it in place. It ain't going nowhere. Okay, we're gonna do the exact same thing on this side. Okay? So, now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna go get my deco veil and I'm gonna glue this on with rubber cement and I'm gonna let it sit for 3 or 4 hours. And then when I come back, we'll go ahead and put Eva foam on the back of this because I like the foam to give it the structure that it needs. And so then I'll be back and then we'll start putting it together. Thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna get ready to put the gusset to the front of the bag. So the first thing you do is flip this inside out like this. Okay, my video camera shut off. So we're gonna flip it over this way, just make sure everything looks right. And then we're gonna turn it back this way and we're gonna go ahead and put some double stick tape on there. And just go ahead and make sure you brayer that in place so it holds because we'll be working on both sides and you don't want that double stick tape coming off. Just brayer it on there. Okay, then we're gonna do the other side. And then we're gonna brayer that in place real well. Okay. There's a couple of spots that always move on me, so I'm gonna go ahead and put some tape right here. Okay, I'm gonna remove the tape from these areas. And then I'm gonna go ahead and remove the tape from this side. It'll be the side that I'm working with. This is what works for me, so maybe it's easier for you to tape everything on here. But this is what works for me. Okay, then you're gonna go ahead and stick it in place in the center. And then put a clip. I'm gonna like to walk it across here, just so that it's secured. And then I'll add another clip. And I'll repeat the same thing over here. Okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and come up here where my 1/4 inch mark is. And I'm gonna put these two together. Making sure that's nice and square. And add another clip. And then I will just walk this into place. This is my 1/4 inch mark, so I'm going to square that up on the top here. And I'll just add a clip here so it's out of the way. And then just walk this through here. And if it doesn't fit right, just take it back off. I'm gonna check that out. I think my piping is sticking out a little bit too much. Let me trim that back just a little bit. There we go. Okay, I'll try that again because we want that to be squared up there. I'm gonna put my clip there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and walk this across. Same as I did on the other side. It's really, really, really seriously easy to do piping. It's a little bit bulky where the gusset is, but you manage it. And just walk it across and then clip it. Just so it stays in place. And then we're gonna walk over here and we're gonna do the corners. I like to bend it into like a little UV kind of like thing. And just put it in place where it belongs. Go ahead and clip it. And you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So it should be fitting nice and snug. Some people like to just go from the other side and do it. And if that's easier for you, you can just push it in like this. Sometimes it just lines up better. Just make sure everything's flush here. And then you can go ahead and clip it. So there's just different ways you can do bags. And then when you flatten it out, it looks like this. So it'll be on your sewing machine nice and flat. And everything's covered there, okay? All right, we're gonna take that over the sewing machine and we're gonna sew that in place. You're gonna back stitch in the beginning and the end. Removing our clips as we go. I have that clip on there because that is where the decorative strap is. And I'm now gonna be hitting the piping. I don't know if you can see that or not. One more thing I forgot to add, you might want to tighten up your seam allowance or your stitches just a little bit so that you have a little bit more sturdy stitch on there. And just take your time doing this. Enjoy the process. You're not in a rush. Unless you've got like an order of 50 of these and you got to have them out in 3 days. Okay, I'm going to bend this backwards and get it out of the way so I don't have puckers. And bringing it back into the seam allowance. And I'm sorry if my hands are in the way. Let's see if I get a screwdriver or something. I need to make sure I'm having it secured in place so it doesn't go out of the way. Sometimes when you're doing these corners on this piping, you lift up as you go, it sometimes will go rogue. And I've noticed that on some of my stuff, it's been like 3/8 of an inch instead of a quarter. So I'm just trying to keep this as close to my seam allowance as I can without getting puckers. Okay, now you're going to pull this out of the way because you don't want a pucker there. And it looks like I might have one starting. Okay, there we go. You want to make sure that's smooth, because if it's not smooth when you go across it, it's going to create a pucker. This is vinyl, so I will definitely be doing a stay stitch afterwards so it doesn't pop out. I'm going to move this out of the way so I can get in there without puckering. Take my screwdriver so I don't get my fingers in the way. Lift this up just a little bit. Just flick this back out of the way when you get to this point. It keeps you from getting puckers. And just make sure this is laying flat. Now we're going to flip it the other way because we don't want puckers. I like to resituate once I come off that curve. Go ahead and pull that off. Snip your threads. And we're going to go ahead and run one stay stitch right next to those stitches, starting at 1 1/4 inch down. All right, so I'm starting now where the piping is, and that's going to be my stitch, my stay stitch next to it. And you have to really pay attention when you're doing this because sometimes that zipper foot likes to go rogue. And you're just running a line of stitches right next to your 1/4 inch stitch. Okay? We'll be back stitching again and stopping where the piping starts. which is right about there. All right. All right. Okay, so we're going to go back out there. I'll show you. I'm sorry. I was keeping it to myself. We're going to go back out there and we're going to go ahead and put the back side of the gusset on. And we'll put it together and I'll show you what this looks like when we get out there. So this is what we've accomplished. We've got the front and the piping finished and it looks so beautiful. Don't be scared to do piping. You will just do it a couple of times. You'll get used to it, and I'm telling you, it really makes for a beautiful bag, okay? All right, I'm gonna turn this back inside right now. So now we're gonna attach the back of the bag. I'm gonna remove the tape we put down earlier. And here we go. I'm gonna find the center. Oh, you need to get this out of your way when you get ready to sew. I just want to remind you of that now so we don't forget, all right? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and put the center together, making sure it's in place where it belongs. Then we're gonna go ahead and clip the sides together so they're where they belong. This is so beautiful. Oh my God, I love it. This is gonna go to Ashley, and that's one who's just having the baby. The baby should be due today, tomorrow, the next day, July 4th, who knows? Whenever the little one decides to come out. He's gonna be a wanderer. He's gonna be the type of little child, an adult, that wants to see the world. I just had that feeling. So I'm so excited about this one coming along. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just put these down here with our tape and then clip it in place, making sure that it's straight. I'll reclip these off of camera just so that I have the little clips on there instead of the big ones. It's easier for sewing, but it gets me started in the right direction. And just make sure that we're all the way to the edge. Got that where I want to. Make sure that it's flush. And then go ahead and clip in place. I'm gonna go back over here and get those clipped in place. Sometimes they like to move a little bit, so just make sure that it's flush. There we go. Do the same thing over here. Sometimes you have to just put your hand in there, get it out. I will go back, like I said, and put smaller clips on here to hold it in place, but I'm just doing this so you guys can see it, okay? How to do it, how to walk it around. Now when you get your corner down here, you need to just, I find on this side, it's a lot easier if I flip it around like this, making sure everything is flush right here. Because in the end effect, it will end up working out fine when you flip it out. So from this side, I go like this. So you're just gonna bring this down so that it kind of like cups the gusset. Start with your center and work your way out so it sits properly. Okay? It should fit in there like a little cup. See? Oh, I gotta put that in there a little bit more, I guess. There we go. Okay. Now I put like a little cup in there. If you struggle with it, just push it back out a little bit so he stays in place where he belongs, or she. He's blame it on him. I don't know why. All right, and then put one right there. Okay, and you can put another one here. And now what I'll do is I'll come back through here and I'll just go ahead and clip it with small clips, and I'll meet you back at the sewing machine. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put the gusset on the back. It's going to be a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Be sure to back tack in the beginning and the end. Be sure that you're picking your sides up here so that you get a nice curve. I end up struggling here quite often. So just take your time. You're not in a rush. You want these even stitched. Okay. I'm gonna go in there and readjust that so I don't get any puckers. Don't be afraid to move your bag around. It's not going to hurt it. It's not made out of glass. And also make sure you remove that pocket from the back, like I told you before, because you don't want to get that stuck in the seam allowances. This takes a lot of bossing around your fabric with the piping in there, but you can get it done. You can do this. Okay, so now we're at the last part here. You want to make sure you get that in there straight because you're not going to go back on that again. And that's where you'll be folding that open. So you want to make sure that's in there the right way. Okay, go ahead and pull that off and cut your threads. And then I'm going to switch back over to my regular foot. Make sure your pocket's out of your way. And we're just going right along that other line just to make an extra tacking stitch. Just to secure it in place, we're going to start down where the piping starts, because you have to butterfly that open. Take your time on your curves. And lift up your foot if you have to. And now we're going to stop where the piping starts. And then that's it. Go ahead and cut off your threads, and I'll meet you back at the work table. And then we're going to go ahead and tape everything down and turn it inside out. You may want to go ahead and turn it inside out and check it if anything looks weird or rogue. And just go back in there, take out those stitches and put them back in. Okay, I'll see you back at the work table. All right, so we have this finished now. This is the back, your gusset, bottom, front. Looks great. I went ahead and took off my tape on the sides here and just pushed them down so that we could go ahead and get this taped off. So the first thing we're gonna do, I'll throw this underneath here so I can get it on camera. We're gonna take some tape and we're gonna put it on the inside here above the line. So it looks like this. Might have to change the angle from the camera now. I'm fine, okay. We're gonna do that on both sides. I always leave that to last, okay? So, we're gonna take our tape and I'm gonna put it just right here on the inside of this line. I'm gonna cut that there in the corner. Okay. I'm gonna take a piece of this off and then I'm gonna make sure it sticks real good. Then we're gonna run a little bit on the inside here. Cut that off. We'll do the same thing on this side. We just need a little bit in there. You can remove this tape. Don't need that anymore. The tape backing, sorry. Okay, you can take the inside out. Okay, and what I like to do is I go ahead and push this open, butterflying it open, then do the same thing on this side, butterflying it open. Okay, now we're going to take a piece and put it on the other side and remove a little bit of this tape. So we're just going to put a little bit here on the inside. And this is going to be the exact same process that you're going to do for the lining as well, because it takes a lot of time to do this. And I don't want to do both sides on the video, the interior and exterior. So I'm showing you this now. And I won't repeat this again on the interior. So this is the only time you'll see this. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on this side. Remove this a little bit so it's out of the way. Go ahead and bring your tape in here so it's cubbied in there. Cut off the excess. Push this down. Move the tape backing. And you're just going to push that and butterfly it open. Okay, then you're going to repeat that again on this side. It's done. Now we're going to take another piece of tape and we're going to put this up here on top. Okay, so that you're staying down. So your butterfly step will stay down, okay? Now I'm going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Go ahead and remove your tape backing from your sides. And I like to do it where I start in the middle, line it up to the line. I got to turn it this way. Sorry, I can't see. So start in the middle, work it out just a little bit so it's all the same. Give it a nice firm press, then flip it over, remove that tape. You're going to repeat the exact same thing. And we're going to go in the middle, do the exact same thing. But before we go there, I'm going to go ahead and fold these down on the edges here, because otherwise it ends up causing problems. Make sure my head's not in the way. It's like trickery here. Okay, so you have your sides down to the line. Okay, then you pinch your middle to that line and walk it back on that line. Okay. Then you can just walk it a little bit over this way. Okay, and walk it a little bit over this way. Just so you're staying on the line. Okay. Then what I like to do is I like to come in here in the middle of that area. Come in the middle of that area and go ahead and give it a press down. And now I'm going to switch it back around so I can see. And then you're just going to put it right back into that line area. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see this. Okay, my line is right here. And you're just going to press it in there. And give it a nice clean press all the way through. I'm going to come back and do the same thing over here now. Okay. Make sure I'm on the camera here. Your line is right here. You're going to start in the middle and work your way in and over and work your way back over here so it's straight. Okay, now we're going to come back over here and we're going to repeat the exact same thing on this side. So we're going to fold this in. A lot of times you just stick your finger in there. Just stick it in there and then fold it down to that line. And hold your finger where the line is. Do the same thing on this side. Basically, you want the seams to be the same. Then you come to the middle and give it a press. So it's all on the line. Okay, and come back over here again. Go to the middle. Walk it back. And just give it a nice little firm press. Just look at it to make sure you're not over your line in some areas. If you are, just pull it off and put it back on. We're going to go back and repeat the same thing over here. If you don't like the way it looks, pull it back up. Press it in place firmly. There we go. I like to just come back with my fingers and finger press it all the way around so that it stays. Because we're going to go ahead and turn the bag inside out now. So if it does come off, you can just fix it on the inside. Let me go ahead and zoom back out. All right. So this is the last time we're going to see the inside of the bag. From this side anyways. All right, stick your hands in there. Squish your gusset in. Give it a nice firm press. Rolling it inward. Don't push it, roll it. Go back to the other side and you're going to do the same thing. Squish the gusset in the corner. And roll it in. You never want to just push it around. It's always better, like if you ever watch some of the leather artisans, they roll everything inward. Because you don't want to stress out your seams, okay? Especially when you get to this area here where that hidden strap connector is. So you're just going to roll it with your fingers gently because you don't want to compromise any seams because that would be very sad. Then you can go ahead and just give it a nice little tug. Come back to the other side and do the same thing. We're going to be rolling this inward with your hands in a circular motion, just giving it a nice little squish because you can iron it back out. We'll use heat towels, heat packs, whatever works. I'm just going to give it a nice push out. And there you go. What I like to do is roll my seams outward. Just so that they're sitting outward of the bag towards the gusset. Just gives it a nice little roll. Put your hand in there and pop that back out again. It fell back in. Okay, and we're pressing and rolling outward. Giving that nice crisp look to the front of the bag. Then I'll flip it over and use my hands inside the bag and push it out a little bit. I'm just kind of like hand smoothing it down. And then I'll take the gusset area and I'll just kind of like walk it along where the piping is. Just so that it looks nice. It's all about presentation, so just push on the seam. Okay. And there's the front of the bag. Yes, it does need to be pressed, but that's not a big deal. Because we can just put some heat towels in there. You can grab your piping from the inside and just roll your fingers along it. That'll give it some more shape. So it shapes in place. Push out your corners here. Push out all the lines where the piping is. So you're grabbing the piping from the inside in the middle with the seam line and kind of just finger pressing it out. So it's giving you that nice look here, 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 all along here. Then we're going to come back and do the same thing on this side. Just pinch it, pinch your seam allowance. Holding it in there and then just kind of roll it in between your fingers. It makes it sit better. And then you can do it later on with a little bit of steam and heat too. I'll generally go ahead and put a towel in here now and let it sit overnight. A steamed up towel. Teresa Staten has a good video for that. In my eBay, I have a tip tricks thing where I use my towel too. Don't go into much detail like Teresa Staten does, but lots of good videos out there on how to steam block it. Okay. All right, now we're going to come back and do the same thing on this side. And on the back side, because that pocket is in there, I'm going to pick the pocket up from the inside, and I'm just going to push out my seams on the bottom. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm explaining it. And just use your fingernails and push along that seam line, because that's going to give that nice look. With that Eva foam in there as well. Okay. Now we're going to come back, and on this one, we'll roll it now. Okay. Just rolling it out. Making sure that everything looks evenly distributed. And my piping's off a little bit right there, but we won't tell nobody. Only you guys will know in the video. Because see, like my piping looks like it's riding up here, but it's not. Once I give it a firm press on my fingers and roll it out, it's giving it a nice way for it to sit. You're basically training it before ironing it. Same thing here. Okay. Flip it back over again. Use your fingers and press it out a little. I don't know, maybe you just don't want to do this. That's fine. You can just iron it. I'm a hands-on type of person. I like to get in there and touch and feel it. Okay. I like the way that looks. I like the way it feels. Just give it a couple of tugs. Just go over it one more time. Okay. I have a bigger one of these, but for now, just for the purposes, I'm going to go ahead and pinch my corners here just to make sure that the tape is going to stay in place. I'll come back with my bigger clamp and tighten them down and press it down with my leather one. But this is just going to get it back in there after turning it inside out so the tape sticks. So like this one's like really bad. I'll just go in there and pinch it. It'll make that tape re-stick. And if you like the way this looks now, this is the inside. Okay. If you like the way that looks, go ahead and steam block it and put it aside, because now the next part we're going to do, this is going to be a 2-part series because there's so much information. I'm always talking. It's going to be a 2-part series. So this is going to be the end of this series. And I would like you guys to come back and join me for the interior of the bag, where we learn to do a double slip pocket. And the lining is really pretty. It's a lot like the Gilbert. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go ahead and recap on the lining. So this will be a 2-part series on this bag, okay? Because there's so much information that I've given you guys. I've already got like 6 hours of video editing that I have to get down into like 1 hour. So I just wanna recap on this. This is they're the exact same bags. You can see it here side by side. This one's finished, this one's not. Big difference. So I want you to join me back on the second one. And on the second one, we'll go ahead and do the adjustable strap. We'll make the recessed zipper, and we'll do the double slip pocket on the inside. And we'll do the zipper pocket on this side. And yeah, it's gonna be fun. Lots more information. You never know what type of tips or tricks you're going to get from me, because I just kind of wing it as I go. But yeah, so here's the back of this one again, and the front, and that's it. I'll see you guys back at the second video. I'm going to try to get this one up tomorrow, and then in 2 more days I'll have the interior one done and up on the YouTube channel as well. And if you guys have any more suggestions for more bags you want to see from Shamballa Bags, just go ahead and put it in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to make another video. I really like Shamballa Bags, and I like to focus on her items. I'm not really trying different patterns at the time because there are so many different types of patterns from Sammy from Shamballa Bags. And I know that there's going to be some new patterns coming up here in the near future. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you give this video a thumbs up, because when you give it a thumbs up, it lets YouTube know that you like my content and I can continue to grow. If my page doesn't grow, I'm not going to keep doing this because it takes a lot of time. I'm not going to lie. This video so far, I started the prep time on Thursday, and I've been working on it since Thursday. Today is Wednesday. It's been 7 days, and all I've gotten done is the exterior from the bag, because I want to make sure that I'm going through everything thoroughly for you guys so that you can make this on your own, so you can do this piping because it's not that hard. You know, we've covered a lot of stuff in this video. So if you guys want to continue to watch me make videos, please subscribe and be sure to give me thumbs up. I hate to ask for that, but I am now monetized, so I want to give a shout out to everybody and say thank you for supporting my channel and subscribing and following me along and encouraging me to continue to make videos, because really this is not that easy as it seems. So all right, till the next video, choo-choos!